All right. Okay, guys. We missed an episode last week, but we'll get to that later. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. You are listening to the True Radio Show, Truth Radio, with me, Tyranny Unmasked, and as usual, Seth and Haven. We're going to be talking about something a little bit different than I normally cover on the channel, but it's something that we typically cover on our website. And I'm going to turn this music down. Okay. It's something we typically cover on our website. And that's technologies that are being suppressed by our government. All right. So one thing that kind of got me into this entire topic of technologies and technologies that are being suppressed was being in the ufology field, because I mean, what else is going to be flying above your head? So there was something I had to come up with something, I had to come up with different explanations for what I was seeing. For those of you that don't know, I used to film UFOs, or that could be anything, right? So my first thoughts were, okay, what is our government flying over our head that I can't explain right here? So I delved into all these different theories, all these different things that are never talked about on the mainstream media or in school or anywhere you're taught. And that's actually a common theme around the world. It's not just here in the States or in Canada or the West itself. It's not really branched out upon. It's we're kept into a small pocket in the way we think. But what I came across and what ended up being the most interesting to me was Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla was probably one of the most influential people in the technological sense of all time. Yet we barely hear anything about him. Most people only think of him as the man who created electricity or the AC current, or not so much as created it, but discovered it. But he predicted so much more than that and came up with so much more than that. And what he had envisioned was completely beyond belief at that time. He envisioned satellites. He envisioned personal handheld devices way before Star Trek came up with the ideas. It wasn't Star Trek that came up with it. It was Nikola Tesla. There's even interviews of him talking about different devices that he envisioned. And he's talking about how something that could fit on your wrist, aka a smartwatch now, today, that could do anything. In his interview, he said that, he said that you could receive data and anything from anywhere in the world, no matter where you are on the globe. And he also went to say the reason why you could receive these informations are because you could attain that information from the air, the aether, electricity in the air. He said it's only the layman to think and believe that you can't attain a current or connect to a current from such a long distance. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was kind of thinking about it. I was seeing what you were going to say next, and I was might going to pop in there. Uh, yeah, there's energy everywhere around us in the universe. If there's mass, there's energy. If there's back and forth, yeah. So if you've got one, that you've got the other. So to say that you don't have energy everywhere around you in the universe is kind of moronic. And to say that it's like only locked in, say, fossil fuels, or only locked in an actual force, like a moving force, a physical force, um, is kind of, yeah. I'm not saying like something spiritual. I'm just saying we have like electricity all around us, and it's kind of just not something that's really thought about. You've got electrons flowing all around you. The planet is basically a huge, massive ground. Um, yeah, so to kind of, yeah, Nikola Tesla kind of thought along those lines, but it doesn't seem like over the last well, since he's died, anybody's really gone on with it. It's kind of like thinking extracting energy from the universe around us is a uh, an idea that there's no point of, or nobody wants to research it, or whatever it is.
Right, and that's where Nikola Tesla took up, or where he ended off, and where, like, say, Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity exploded. That's where we see the most suppression of individual thought and different ideologies on technology and physics and astronomy. And that's when we start seeing the mainstream popularization of certain ideas. And if it didn't fall within these ideas, it was scrutinized and it was looked at as crazy talk, regardless of the lack of things that are a lack of proof or lack of uh, other than being on the chalkboard writing up a theory. Like, there's no physical proof of many of the mainstream topics that were being pushed at that time and still are being pushed today. And that's what I was trying to get at. Government censorship. I think what had happened is back in the day, Nikola Tesla had his mind in the right place. He had all the right ideas, and we can see that he predicted 100. It's like over 100 years now. 100 years into the future, he had predicted things that were not even thought of until like the late 70s or 80s for the mainstream topics. With, like I said, in movies and different TV shows, nobody else was doing that.
No, well, I wouldn't say nobody else was, but there was other people that were doing just, somebody like Nikola Tesla. Nobody was doing in the capacity or the aptitude or the extent. I don't know. You could probably say it a billion different ways, but yeah, he was kind of doing it a lot better than anybody else, and yeah, he was just a super genius, basically. Uh, I don't know what else to say about him, because he was just so much smarter than the average day person.
All right. 1 second here. I had lost my article is the issue. But basically what my article was talking about was how there was so much suppression about his ideas, is that they were fearing where it was going because it was giving too much power to the people. People were going to gain freedom from corporations because all these different technology, if you can obtain free energy in any form or shape, you're not going to be reliant on any oil companies or any you start to gain your own freedom away from corporations, is what I was getting at. And they saw this, so they did whatever they could to suppress these ideas. And I think that's going on largely to this day with things like patents and all the different steps and obstacles you have to go to do your own research, like to create your own backyard labs and your and garage scientist and to be an engineer. There's so many hurdles and obstacles placed in your way to prevent you from thinking or to even believing that it's possible for you to come up with these ideas or to research it yourself. Like, I mean, even gaining the materials, that's the war on drugs has created an environment to where the materials that you get for doing, like, say, physics experiments and things are so heavily sanctioned because you can make other things with them. But say if the war on drugs wasn't present and there was less fighting or less of an effort to stop that, it would be much easier for people to actually experiment and to, not be less reliant on their government to give them the technologies.
Yeah, it's funny the way that these things kind of trickle over too into other things. They don't just stop with their, having a problem in the one industry, right? If you talk about the patents, it doesn't just, screw up the person trying to, do the research, but it screws up the marketplace because the marketplace doesn't get any innovation. Because the marketplace doesn't get any innovation, you don't have any competitiveness. Because you don't have any competitiveness, you don't have any actual real inflation driving the marketplace. So you have to make fucking make belief inflation. You have to drive it up on your own. It's not just you put the one barrier in the place, and it actually causes numerous amounts of problems that then you get to go around and have an excuse to put more things in place that cause more problems and more and more and more. So
that's why, to an elitist, the best government is socialism.
Yeah,
because the government's in control of everything. What does the layman have to say any different or to even fight for those rights? That's why, like, in history, you always see these different tyrannical governments heading towards a socialist or communist type of government, and that's evident all throughout history. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why there's a huge movement pushing us towards a socialist society today here in America and Canada. It's the same way in any of the Western world or the modern world, so to speak. That's why you see all throughout Europe and the European Union, they're all going towards socialist societies. And you can tie that in with Zionism, but I think you can tie anything in with Zionism.
no, I think it's just when people panic because all of their entitlements and things start falling away, they start asking for more. Yeah,
Right. In my opinion, it's like
it's like a snowball effect. Once you start giving them free shit, then they start asking for more free shit, and then you can't give them free shit, so then they start stressing about not getting free shit, and then yeah, it's all over the place. Just stop giving free shit, or if you're gonna give it, you have to give it to the entire population equally.
yeah, once you start getting free shit.
Well, that's it. If once you start giving free shit, it's everybody's got to get it equally, or you can't give it at all.
It turns into like a childhood argument. No, he gets that. I want
Yeah,
like siblings fighting over. Like, everybody's got to be. It's got to be even. It's got to be fair. Everyone's gonna get the same thing. Don't worry. And that turns into laziness. That turns into a habit, and that kills innovation. That kills the entire system that people thrive on and build careers on. It's like you build something up and you hit the stone you're standing on to build up. You just knock the stones out beneath you when you create a socialist society. But I think the socialist society is a product of tyrannical control, is what I was getting at. That
no, I think it's a problem with undereducation. People who don't understand basic rights. well, I was educated in Canada, and we have like civics class, but it doesn't actually. It's like one little course. It's not like something that we're taught all over and over again, and it's not like it really teaches us all that much. It's not really that in depth or anything like that. Um, yeah. So yeah, there's not really nobody's educated on it, so they don't really care about their rights, and they don't really care about anybody else's rights. That's why somebody has no problem saying, "I think I should get something for free from the government." That the government, well, is just a big gang that's gone and stolen it from somebody else for free. Um, yeah, that's that's what I'm getting at. If you're going to give things, it's got to be given equally, and it can't be taken from one person and just given to another. Um, things can't just be like that way. Exactly.
So what you're saying is it's more of a product. Are you saying it's more of a product of conditioning, or it's a
Well, yeah,
product?
because if you look at like say America at like turn of the Civil War and that kind of stuff, or before it, Americans were like fanatical about their basic rights and liberties, and to even suggest taking any one of them away in any sort of way, they'd lynch you right there. Um, that would be it. Like it was. That's how big of a thing it was. Yeah, and that was what one of the things that made America great and got so many people to go there and all that other kind of stuff. And if you try to find that in somebody today, you'll be hard pressed. You'll find a few, but not many, that are actually adamant that their basic rights and liberties are that's all they have. And if you try to take it away from them, well, they don't have anything else. So yeah, um, it's kind of like we don't understand that once you take away somebody's rights and liberties, there's nothing else to really say. And if you actually look at like say the legal system, the way that they do most of the stuff is through informed consent. So they pass a bill through that says you have to give them money or they'll come at you with a gun and put you in jail. And if you don't then go and act in basically complete civil war, then it's considered, oh, then it's fine. It's okay. Even if it's immoral, even if it's wrong, even if it's slavery, it doesn't matter what it is. But if they got it through and you didn't just automatically go into all out civil war, well, then it's okay. It's fine. So I think that for the system to work the way that it needs to, you can't educate anybody, and they can't know the different what basic rights are, and they can't um, be taught that they're supposed to be something that are fundamental and they can't be compromised. Because in the world we live in, they have to be able to be compromised nonstop. So they don't want you thinking like that in any aspect.
What do you think would happen in the world today if, like, say, people like Nikola Tesla and other people that seemingly had a lot of their ideas either overlooked or suppressed? What do you think the world would look like today had these technologies been at the forefront of public knowledge? Where do you think the world would be today?
Well, we'd definitely be a lot farther ahead. And if like people like Tesla were allowed to just experiment and create and research out their yin yang until the day they died with as much resources as they need, that guy could have we don't know what he could have turned around and done. But basically, Tesla's end of his life wasn't guy died penniless, broken, alone, like broken as a person. He had his patents stolen from him. He had his ideas stolen from him. J.P. Morgan just screwed him left, right, and center. Yeah, he got it pretty good. So if he was like, if it wouldn't have gone like that, and it would have gone the other way, we would have definitely had a world that's much more advanced than it is today. That's for sure. Especially as far as energy goes, because the guy was fanatical about providing the entire planet with energy for free.
Right, with his big towers that emitted electricity into the air.
Well, that was just one of the ways that he figured that if you could generate electricity, you could pump it through the air, definitely.
Right.
But then he had other ideas about how now I can't fathom the term all of a sudden. Um, The ether. Yeah, so pulling energy directly out of the ether, and different ways that that may be possibly done. And you can find many, many quotes of him saying, if we can figure out how to tap into the ether, then that'll be an unlimited source of energy for ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And what he considered the ether was the electromagnetic world around us that we can't really see, but we can measure with various different instruments.
Right, and it's something that's kind of looked at as a fantasy today in modern physics and astronomy.
Yeah, it's just if it's just if you want to turn around and look at it of a realm of gravity and mass, but you want to look at it in more of a realm of, say, energy, and electricity and magneticism. Well, the ether is really, that's what it is, right? It's kind of like, remember when we were doing the NASA article, right?
Right.
And with the Battris system and the way that the modeling works and how it does an imprint. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like the ether is that realm where all that kind of stuff is going on with within electromagnetics. It's there. We can measure it. We can model it. Um, so it's definitely not fantasy.
With the
Not at all.
accelerated particles like making contact with their magnetosphere and magnetopause, and
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's just like one example of different ways that they can measure that kind of stuff.
there was
Um,
also another article that we ended up covering one time where NASA kept seeing these blobs of like different energy in space and they didn't know what it was, like these ribbons of what looked like currents through space.
Yeah, and I'm probably sure I know what they are. They're certain kind of like I put up a meme a long time ago about it from electric universe theory. It's a specific kind of like discharge. It's basically like it's like a lightning bolt cut trapped in its own current, kind of just tunneling through space, waiting to be able to discharge onto something because it's kind of just floating away, and it's magnetically bound and entwined around itself, so it's stable. It doesn't break apart. It just keeps on tumbling and tumbling and tumbling.
So you're saying it's like a disc thrown through space or something?
Not really. It looks more like a worm, or probably one of the best things. There was a Star Trek episode when I was a kid, or a movie or something. No, it was like a finale of Star Trek, The Next Generation, and that was probably the best. No, it was an actual movie. Which one was it? Anyways, there's this big like thing flying through the galaxy towards this planet, and if it turns around and hits it, then all of time gets destroyed. But the image that it gives is very similar to the description. That's what it would look like in space, kind of thing.
I was trying to see if I could get a picture of it.
No, probably not. It was just a random thing. I forget the episode, or the movie, and it was, yeah. Uh,
I
matter.
think I think I might have found it. Here, let me see real quick. See if I can share it. Does it look like that?
No,
Oh,
not
that
at
was.
all. This thing's like big and orange, and it kind of rolls like a wave.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that's what it looks like. It looks like a big red wave kind of going, tumbling through space.
All
It kind
right,
of looks
so
like a wave of fire, but I'm thinking about it in a more of a lightning fashion, electrical discharge fashion, instead of what Star Trek was actually showing. But I just thought that came to mind if I was gonna think of a depiction, or if I was gonna try to make like a 3D model for what it would look like. It would be something right along those lines.
so right around the time that Nikola Tesla was kind of still in the popularity, that's when Einstein started coming into popularity, or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, because yeah, Tesla died. Really, that's the big thing. Is Tesla died. Einstein lived. They were both working on the same problems, or a lot of the same problems. So we ended up basically taking the person's theories that kind of lived longer. Um, I wouldn't say that either one is completely right because there's yeah, there's stuff missing. Um, but yeah, uh, Einstein is what he is. I've got some problems with general relativity, but I don't have so much problems with Einstein because um, he was like back and forth on his own theories. He liked them, and then at the later part of his life, he spent the rest of his time trying to disprove them and get people to stop believing them.
Do you like one of my theories is that maybe like possibly Zionists or whoever saw this opportunity to feed disinformation to people. Were like, hey, here's this guy. Let's fund him. Let's get this guy going and leave the other guy to wander off in his own whatever, his own mind. And that's when Einstein kind of like became a superstar.
Well, no, he became a superstar because he got a Nobel Prize for his work on light. Um, so that was the big thing. People ran off with his theory on general relativity. It wasn't what he got noted for, and um, what he was actually academically known for being brilliant for. Um, so general relativity was kind of like a pet project thing that he had that he didn't understand most of the things about it and he wasn't sure about it and this and that, but everybody else really loved it and thought it could do this and that and that and this, and it's kind of like,
A religion.
yeah, a religion that the inventor never wanted.
So it's just like a side effect. I mean, it's basically like you have you like wrote up a thesis on something, and then a generation, or not even a generation, but years later, someone finds it and is like, "Whoa, this is cool," and just basically blew it out of proportion. What I've been trying to understand is how do we get so off track of what is reality, or what, like, how does science go from where they were heading when Nikola Tesla was still alive and all these different theories he was proposing. There was other scientists, uh, I forget his name, but I know his last name, Birkeland, the guy that came up with Birkeland currents,
Yep.
and all these other scientists that were having these theories that they could actually prove, or not so much prove, but give examples of, and create experiments, and like show examples throughout the solar system. But then we get a guy that comes in and has, hey, here's these theories, and look, I can do a mathematical equation that says that it's right or should be right, and that's what blows up. That's what just becomes the mainstream.
Yeah, well, mathematics. Just because you can make a really, really nice mathematical equation doesn't mean that it's right. There's lots of really nice-looking mathematical equations that mean absolutely nothing. Uh, but yeah, that's just the way that it is, um, and that's about it.
All right. Man, I should have wrote these on a list. I have like 15 tabs open. 16 to be exact. I'm trying to find it. Okay, so there's a guy that I recently ran into on the internet, the interwebs, who shows examples of bending light. And I'm like, "What? That's not possible." And basically what he does is he has this circular disc where he has these lights strapped around it, or it's something like that. And it's something called a ferrocell. Have you heard of that? A ferrocell.
No, I haven't.
Okay, but it has some type of material in it that refracts the light. But the light comes in and then when you put a magnet underneath it, it bends the light and it shows all these different patterns and all these different waves that shouldn't happen. That you shouldn't be like. From my understanding and the way I've always learned, you can't bend light. Yet there's examples of it, and I also found a video of a laser light being shined into one of these, and a super powered magnet is being held up to it, and it's pulling the magnet towards pulling the wave towards it. Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen the video.
I thought you were one of the ones that showed it to me. But anyhow, how is light being bent by magnetism? How theoretically is that possible?
Oh, it's really simple. You can do it like you can do it with a laser, and there's a bunch of videos online. Just look at lasers being bent by light or bent by magnets. You just need a strong enough magnet, and that's about it. Especially if there's a gas in rotation around the in a like swirling in a magnetic field, then for sure you're going to end up having the light being bent, because as the light is being passed through plasma or passed through the gases, it's changing the direction of the light slightly.
Without the introduction of gas into it, is there any way to bend the light?
Well, there's plasma everywhere that you can see matter in the universe. It's almost 99.97% plasma or something like that. I forget the exact number now.
Right. So in theory, like if you had a powerful enough magnet or some kind of magnetic figuration that could create magnetic fields, you could create basically anything because you can control the light where it's going. You could create invisibility cloaks. You could create something that pops up in the sky and looks like whatever you want it to look like if you could control it through magnetism.
Yeah, but we're talking about how tightly can you control through magnetism, and then how much magnetism do you need, and so forth, and that kind of stuff. Because if light if light is energy, all right, it has to be bound by electromagnetic forces, so it has to turn around and be affected electromagnetically. It has to pull one way or the other, or push. Simple as that. It can't just fly through space and be devoid of all interaction.
Right. Let me see. So what I was going with that is I've never heard of light being able to be bent anywhere. I've always heard that's impossible. Like there's no way to do it other than like it being refracted through a mirror or through the norm. And I was just wanting to
No,
know.
just go look online. You can see it done a whole bunch of times. You can bend light. You can bend fire. You can bend a whole bunch of things with the little magnets. There's thousands of videos that you can see online.
All right. So another topic. Let me see here. I kind of like burned through I burnt through my thing in like the first 5 minutes faster than I thought I would burn through it.
That's okay. We're already over time. We've already gone past the 30 minutes that we usually do.
Really? It feels like it's been like 10 minutes.
No, it's 34 minutes there. So just wrap it up. That's it.
Okay. All right. So basically, what we did, we were talking about Tesla, different technologies that can't be, or different technologies that you typically aren't going to hear about on the mainstream media. But wow, yeah, it is 34 minutes yet. All right, so this was a very different podcast per se, but we'll be back next week. Hopefully, I'll have things a little bit better, a little bit more straightened out, and we'll see you guys. It's been fun. Appreciate you coming on, Seb.
Not a problem. See you again next week.
All right, man. All right, peace.